A new championship and a lot of new promise for all of the competitors today, with a completely stacked field of cars and drivers who will emerge victorious on top of the mountain today. G'day, everybody, and welcome to Bathurst, Australia, Mount Panorama, round number 1 of season 7 of the Friday GT Sprint Challenge here on RCI TV. I'm Jesse Lee, joined by Tim Peck with Stewie, as per usual. Behind the cameras, Tim Peck, I said good day. Was that enough Australian for you?
Uh, let's just say it was a good start. It wasn't 100% what you were bigging yourself up to do before the stream, but we can leave that for another day. Thank you, Jesse. It's an absolute pleasure to be joining you today. I'm very excited to see this championship. Something we were talking about just before we started the stream was the amount of big names in the lineup today.
It really is. It is a who's who of ACC sim racing for sure. You've got names that have won multiple championships here at RCI alone, let alone the countless other championships in ACC elsewhere. And beyond that, you've got, I know they hate it, but you've got influencers and streamers and everything here today. It's going to be that kind of season and that kind of race. At some point, though, you do get a little bit nervous, or I'm a little bit nervous, that race number 1 is at the mountain. It is a track that breeds contact, not necessarily with other cars, but certainly the walls, Tim Peck.
Yeah, like you said, it's one of those tracks where there's that unsettling feeling the entire way you're going around it, and even just watching someone go around it, that something may go wrong somewhere. So I don't expect for a second that we're going to see some clean races. I imagine there is going to be at least a bit of wall scraping, but what I think today is the thing to look out for, Jess, is those that actually managed to keep out of the wall. I mean, like we said, there's a lot of big names here. It'll be interesting to see if there are a lot of drivers fighting at the front that just don't make a single mistake today, because those will be the people that will come out on top.
See, you said the golden word, didn't you? Not make a mistake. I'm going to hazard the guess. Nobody is going to escape unscathed today. Huge field of cars, a lot of big names. Everyone here is going to have to push as hard as they possibly can to get everything they can out of the cars. I mean, just look at our top two. Wajna leading Savalainen 5/1000ths of a second, as close as it could possibly be.
Yeah, I think that's just going to continue into qualifying now. We've just come to the end of free practice, and Wajna is on the top with a 1:59.790. And coming into qualifying, which we're going to enter in a couple of minutes here, Jesse, I imagine that it's going to be very, very tight at the top, and we'll probably be going, I'm going to estimate somewhere around 50, maybe even 20th, could all be within a second of each other, honestly.
Very well could. And also something to think about too, you can get a tow down the Conrad and the Mountain Straight. You can get a bit of a tow from some of the other cars. Will that play a little bit of a factor? Are there a couple of friends out there to help each other in a series like this? I think there might be. Some might try it, and it is beneficial. You can gain a half to a full tenth if you can time it right. It is very difficult, though. You get that nice big mountain session, but look at this. 10 minutes of qualifying, 2 p.m. in sim time, 28 degrees on the track temperature, and nothing really to complain about for the weather, as nearly everyone trying to exit the pit lane at almost the same time. Only a handful of cars still sitting in the garage bays waiting for a clearer track to leave, but the vast majority, I would say more than 3/4, already out there, and they're going to have to figure it out, because you cannot run a quick lap here right next to somebody distracting you.
Well, I imagine that's why they all dived out of the pits at the same time to try and get ahead. The person that's going to come off best here is the person that managed to get out of the pit lane first, because that's what Bathurst is. You have a clear track ahead of you, you're fine. If you're behind someone, not even directly behind them, you're going to get held up, especially if they make a mistake. That's going to ruin several people's laps behind as well, just because they'll have to slow down to avoid the incident. So the person coming out here, Paulo Lima, has such a huge advantage being the first out of the pit lane, and I don't doubt for a second that they're really going to try and abuse this and push for a good time here, because you can, like you said, Jesse, there's a huge train of cars behind them, and they're already coming into the third sector now. They're just about to cross out of sector 2. They're still all bunched up. They need to make more room.
Well, they're going to have to figure that out by the time they get to the chase. You're probably going to see a lot of cars checking up after the chase before you get to the final left-hander before the abbreviated pit straight, and that's going to frustrate some because they're not going to be put in the position or going to be afforded the position that they want. Welcome in not only to the broadcast team, welcome back from the summer break, a big welcome back to the stewards as well. Friday Champ Season 7 live stewarded again. When we met you in the summer, there was no live stewarding for the mini series, but this being a full series, live stewarding is on deck. And what an armada of stewards, a who's who of stewarding as well in the box. First laps going out, going green as some of the cars at the very front not really worried about checking up at all, trying to widen the gap, but still cars trickling out of the pit lane will afford a little bit of difficulty, especially if they have issues up in front of them, Tim.
Jesse Lee, is this the tactics you were talking about just before we got into quali? A car has just come out of the pit lane ahead of Lima as they were crossing the line. So I'm wondering, is this either a case of the car came out of the pit lane because it was their last opportunity to get a clean lap in with no one ahead of them, or have they come out so that they can pull Lima along once they get into the Conrad straight in the third sector?
Now that's an interesting thought, because I thought that was accidental and that would be frustrating Lima, especially if Lima's really quick like they usually are, and you don't want to catch that car on the top of the mountain okay, now they're getting out of the way, and that's exactly what Lima wanted. Lima either wanted that car to have enough pace to pull them down the Conrad or do exactly what they did, get out of the way. That did not impact Paolo's time at all, and now they have a clean track. No, they don't have a toe down the straight, but it probably won't matter. This will be a really good baseline lap, looking very sharp from Lima here.
And the car that came out of the pit lane is just that's now not the call. You've come out of the pit lane just ahead of the main pack, had to come to the side to let the leader through, and now you are stuck in the middle of this huge pack. So they've either got to try and, well, honestly, at this point, it might even be worth just returning to the pit lane, because otherwise you're going to be waiting on track for ages. Your tyres are going to start going cold, and it's not the ideal situation to be in. But Lima here got one more corner left to do, and that's when we're going to see the benchmark time that we're trying to set in qualifying here. Just about to come across the line. What is it going to be when they come across? It's not quite there yet. I always do. So I always start too straight, and it looks like it's going to be over a 2 minute currently. And the 2:01s is the best time Thomas has set so far. So probably a good benchmark of a time, but based on what we saw in practice and what we'll be seeing at the end of qualifying, Jesse, it's going to get a lot quicker.
Cardiali came across, Jutnavicius now, Thomas, Merrills was briefly on provisional pole, Tico Vandervelde up to P3, Juna Savalainen second, Garrett Fisher goes fastest of all, a 2 minute dead and some change. That is all that's in it, a couple of tenths between the top couple of cars, and it's not going to sit there. I'm pretty sure somebody here is going to get sub 2 minutes before we're done. Jade Hutchinson coming across the line in that NSX. You know, that car is very good around here, and the Canadian driver has put it provisionally second.
And you can already see at the top, Malinowski and Hutchinson split by just 0.04 of a second. So already getting quite tight at the top. Although, like you said, neither of them have managed to get below that 2 minute lap yet. And, well, with 4 minutes left to go, Jesse, it's going to happen because the track's going to get more sticky. People can get more comfortable. They're going to be able to start pushing a bit more. And what's happened to Lima here? Oh, gone down the mountain way too fast and clashed.
And that ruined.
Well, yeah, like you said,
ruined
like
everybody's lap behind him.
That's why you don't want someone in front of you, because Lima goes into the wall, and on any other track, that's, you know, you go into the wall, you quickly recover or pull yourself to the side. There's nowhere to go on the mountain, and it holds up for 4 cars behind them.
Really does. Now here's Jaroslav Hanzink, also known as Jardier on the internet. A lovely man. He had an interesting summer vacation, did Jardier. Commented at one point that he wasn't sure if he was at a sweat lodge or on vacation, sweating profusely. Very quite humorous, but hopefully he relaxed as well. His first appearance in the Friday Champ in 3 seasons, but he's back now driving for his own Jardier community team, that 39 McLaren, looking very sharp in the blue, red, and silver affair. Already inside the top 10, 6 tenths off of Malinowski's time, but Fisher goes back to the top. Garrett Fisher goes a 2-minute 1:75. That's about a tenth of improvement for them. What does Jardier have on this lap? Goes P6 there, a 2-minute 6 for him. Very nice laps as they're all coming together. 85 100ths is all that's in it between the top two. Make it 80 100ths as Max Wajna goes back to P2.
It's like you were saying, Jesse, it's going to be very close. No one has broken into the 159s yet, but I feel like it's coming. There's 3 minutes left of qualifying, and as you were just talking about, a huge fight at the top. Martin Lawrence coming down the Conrod straight through the final chicane and approaching the final corner. Do they have a good enough time improvement to put themselves up a bit? They're currently up by 7 tenths of a second on their lap, now 8 tenths of a second, so that's going to really push them up the order into the top 10 if they can keep hold of it through the final corner. We'll see how good it is now, enough to put them in 10th position, a huge 11th-place improvement for Martin Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence hasn't taken a really good crack at a Friday championship in a little while. Today, though, showing absolutely no signs of rust, putting that car just there inside the top 10. Nicholas Bosselet, P22. That lap was an improvement, 2-minute 1.780, and that shows you just how rapid this field is. 1.6 off in 22nd place. Getting a little bit of tow, that will only help that particular manufacturer down the straight. Harry Conway talking about drivers coming back, has dabbled in some racing in the past couple of summer seasons that we've done. It looks to be fully back in a very sharp looking car. The prancing horse float car going very well here. Savalainen, what has happened here to Salvo?
Oh, no.
And big accident there coming out of the park section into the Sunset top area. And that has, or excuse me, Skyline, not Sunset. We're not in South Africa yet. I do apologize for that mistake. But rather besides a huge accident, and that goes to show one minor mistake. So many blind corners here, it makes a difference.
But that's the thing about the mountain. We're just watching Foch and what happened to them. Sort of slightly hit the right wall, which sent them right into the left one. And you can see now just trying to find a place to park the car that's out of everyone's way, really. But as you were saying, Jesse, there's a lot of blind corners here. You've got tight corners, blind corners, fast corners with really tight walls around them. It's just asking for trouble, and you have to be so careful here. And we've said it so many times already, just in this stream alone, that if someone makes a mistake in front of you, the high likelihood is you're getting held up, if not caught up in the accident, like we just saw with Salvalainen there, because they come around the corner, they're just swinging the car to the left, trying to hit the apex perfectly. And like what's happening there, the Mercedes is parked on the apex. There's nowhere to go, and you don't see it until you come around the corner, because all you've got in your face is a wall until you've covered it. So I imagine that's just going to be the story of today, is a lot of people park just behind apexes unintentionally, and it's going to cause problems in the race.
Maciej Malinowski goes to the top of the board and puts our first sub 2-minute lap in, a 59.877. Hutchinson now a quarter of a second behind Fisher. Being told it's pronounced Voitna. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Do keep me updated on that. But they are back in fourth, and you saw Jutnovicius come in P5. Jardier still holding strong, P6. Tico Vandervelde getting all of the suck down the Conrad straight. That was absolutely executed perfectly. Unknown if that was a calculated assist or not. Coming to the line, qualifying's over. All flying laps will count, though, including this one from the Williams Esports driver.
Van der Velde here, up on their time by almost 7 tenths of a second. This would be enough to put them into that P2 slot. We'll see how they do coming around to the final corner here, whether they can maintain this time, and they're about to cross the line. Is it enough to get into P2? It's just enough to get into P2, but still 0.17 off of P1. Malinowski there set an amazing time.
Couple of cars having a huge crash here. Malinowski involved. They might have been on a really quick lap, but it won't matter. They're going to be completely defenseless here. Luckily, they're already in P1, and yeah, just trying to grab a little bit more. You saw another car right in front of them have the same exact issue, just a corner later down the racetrack. If you think it's been fraught in qualifying, wait till you see the race. All these cars trying that in earnest. Jade Hutchinson coming to the line. They've been so stout so far in that NSX around here, and they'll take back P2, the second driver in the 59s. That 59.9, good enough for a front row start at the moment. Jardier comes across a big improvement, a 2 minute 3.25, keeps them in P6 for the time being. A lot of cars already in the pit lane. Hugo Merrill's a driver who has lit up RCI in recent months, put their name certainly on the map here in RCI competition. They will take the Team VMS car up to P7.
I mean, this has just been a brilliant qualifying performance so far. We've just got Jordan Daly left on the track, finishing their lap, about to cross the line. And it's enough to put them up 5 places in the 31st. But what a qualifying, Jesse. And it just goes to show the urgency of the track here. You need to find the space. You have to perfect your lap because you need to find the right balance between pushing to the limit, but without pushing too hard that you end up binning it into a wall. And I imagine that's what we actually saw at the end there with Malinowski. They had that fast lap, the one that has put them in pole position, but they thought they could find more. They were really pushing it into the downhill section. Where can they find the extra time? And as we saw, just pushed it that little bit too much and ended up in the wall. Now, luckily, it didn't matter for Malinowski there, but that was what qualifying was about to me, was just how hard can you push it before you go over the limit?
Urgency on the track, urgency in the booth as well. It's a lot to keep up with. 30 some plus cars around the mountain, setting laps inside the 2 minute barrier. The front row very close to one another. Can anybody take it to Malinowski today? We've seen them very dominant in the past, but Hutchinson has made a name for themselves as well in recent times, especially this year, doing incredibly well. And I don't know if they're going to be able to get away from each other. If there's only a tenth in it between the two of them, it would be hard, especially with the long straights here around Mount Panorama, to do just that. We do know that before the crash, Malinowski was up on their time. They were absolutely pushing it to the limit. Tim, in that vein, how hard do you push qualifying versus the race? Do you go about 98% in the race, or are you still going as hard in qualifying for a 1 hour race like?
No, absolutely not. I personally, if it was me driving, I'd maybe tone it down a bit for the race. Of course, you got to get through the first lap, and that's the real danger, is getting through that first lap without losing any positions and giving yourself enough of a barrier, because you got to judge how fast can you go compared to your qualifying speed without it being dangerous. Because in qualifying, like we said, you're pushing your car to the limit. Malinowski there is the best example I've seen of this in a very long time. In that they had that one really good lap and then gave it 110% in that final lap. But Malinowski can't do that now going into the race, because if Malinowski goes 100% like they just did in qualifying, they could do what we've just seen again, and it's going to cost them the entire victory. So I don't know where the balance is. I'd probably say about 95%, but to begin with, it's mostly just a judging thing and seeing where you're comfortable, where the car feels like it's really sticking as well, where the car feels comfortable. But it's just one of those things that you've got to keep judging on the fly. And maybe as you get into that final half of the race, Jesse, you can start to push that little bit more if you feel a lot more comfortable and the tyres are a bit more grippy. But yeah, I say it's impossible to tell just how hard you should push. It's one of those things that you just got to judge on the fly. And it's why a lot of these drivers are so brilliant and talented.
Reading the chat as we always do here at RCI TV, seeing a lot of fantastic messages. Lindrup, happy to be back, remarking on the strong season as well. Katrina, hello, welcome back to normal Friday service. I hope you enjoy the race. McCormack, cheers for the pronunciation request, and of course, well, Redford is back as well, and we echo your sentiment. It is great to be back. It's great to have all of you with us as well. And the Hondas do look really stout here today. They usually are around the mountain, but my worry is the deeper we get into the season, will that always be the case? But that's not important today. Important part is the result after the 1 hour mark. Required pit stop as per usual in the sprint rounds. We'll bring you more information when that comes up a little bit later. But for right now, just admiring some of these brand new cars. Of course, custom liveries are supported in RCI, have been for a while now, and sometimes the drivers get a little bit carried away with it. Sometimes lose, always win. I'm familiar with the meme. Very funny and humorous indeed. But wow, 40 plus cars, Tim. Start somewhere near the middle to the back of this pack. What's your approach for the start of this race?
Close my eyes and pray to God. There's not a great way to go about this, honestly. It's the same with most tracks, but Bathurst is one in particular where you just have to be careful. You need to be very alert
There's
in
a
those first
GTR in
laps.
here. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm sorry. I saw a GTR. I have to be biased, and I will be,
Oh my
as
God,
you
here
were
we go.
saying.
Jesse spoiled the GTR, and that's one thing I actually wanted to mention, Jesse, is the different cars that are out here today. We've got a real range. There's not one that's been picked as a preference. You know, sometimes you see everyone picks a BMW because it's good across the season, or everyone picks a McLaren because that's good across the season. But we have a real mix of cars out there, and that is lovely to see because there are some of these cars that just don't get driven a lot in competitions and etc. Of course, competizione, and I'm just excited to see how they perform. Like we were saying, the Hondas really, really good here at Bathurst, but across the season, we'll see how they perform and whether what the drivers can do with that car. But going back to what you originally asked me, Jesse, what do you do if you start in the middle here? You've just got to be really alert and you've got to keep making sure you find that space. And most importantly, get wary of everyone around you. Work together almost because at the end of the day, if the person next to you is not getting through the corner, you're probably not either. So a bit of working together at the beginning, just so that every car can stay on the track is what we need to see.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of cooperation that is required. Certainly, we've seen over the years here some horrific nightmare starts, and hopefully today isn't one of those. I remarked when the broadcast started, my only worry with so many drivers at making Bathurst round number one, it does invite a huge kerfuffle. Hopefully, that does not happen today. We have also seen, though, Tim, some astonishingly clean starts here at Bathurst as well. Let's hope today is the day we see another one of those. Pace lap underway, the one and only pace lap that they will get. Hopefully, all the drivers and teams are ready. But I got to ask, Tim, a lot of butterflies now, shortly, no matter where you are in this field.
Oh, absolutely. Wherever you are, whether you're at the front or the back, or even in the middle of the pack, you are going to be very nervous about how this start's going to go because a lot of it is out of your hands. You have to trust everyone around you, but at the same time, you do have to really pick where you place your car because if you go too aggressive at the beginning, you could cause the accident or you could risk being the cause of an accident. But if you go way too safe, you're just going to get overtaken very, very easily. So for Malinowski here, they need to find that balance. They need to find it quick. How hard and fast can they go without being so aggressive that they're either causing trouble or putting their car at risk, or too safe that they're just losing? Because if Malinowski can make it through this first lap, Jesse, they could be set for the race. There's not a lot of overtaking opportunity in the middle of Bathurst. So as long as Malinowski can get to the straight with a decent bit of distance between them and the car behind, they don't have to worry. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Malinowski here needs to ace this mountain section every time, and if they can do that, they are set for the win here today.
And a lot of people loving that GTR. I expected people to be upset with me about being biased in the booth here, but no, absolutely not. People loving the GTR. You love to see it. I love to see it, and you do too, apparently. So cheers to that. Welcome everybody who has just joined us. You've not missed a thing. Qualifying has taken place, but the race still yet to get going. And for Malinowski, your pole sitter, it's all about getting the best start possible. Don't get swamped into turn one, appropriately named Hill Corner.
Oh, we're coming down the Conrod Straight now. We're about to go into the final section of corners. I gotta say, Jesse, even I'm feeling a little nervous about how the start is going to go here. But one thing that we said at the beginning of the stream is a lot of talented drivers here, some huge names, some with a lot of wins and competition wins under their belt in this lobby. So, hey, if anyone can do Bathurst safely and if anyone can nail Bathurst at the start, it's going to be these guys on track right now.
It sure is. Two by two, they will all come. 40 plus drivers, a maximum of 42. in each split. Of course, this is the top split, this is the pro split. These are the fast boys and girls, if you will. And man, did they show it in quali. Sub 2 minute laps up front, and behind, they were not very far off either. The vast majority of the top 20 in the 2 minute dead bracket. And then further back, again, still way faster laps than I could ever even dream of. The abbreviated pit straight off of the final turn called Murray's, and into Hell Corner and up the mountain. To speak of as they go up the mountain straight.
That was incredibly close from the car that had to rejoin there, but all drivers did very well to keep it together and stay out of the way. Malinowski, though, what a start that they've had. You can see as we're starting to go up the mountain now, they're ahead of everyone behind, managed to keep it together in the first corner. And Max Wojcicki, coming up the mountain as well, has someone in their mirrors. Is that a McLaren I see with the orange colour? Is that another car? I can't 100% tell, but either way, oh, it's a Ferrari. I got that completely wrong. I do apologise, but the Honda just trying to put the car behind. You can see a gap's forming here, and for the 616, Jesse, that's a good thing because it means they can turn their attention to the drivers ahead.
I like how Samir Foch, well, not every single season, but a lot of seasons, they change their team name, and it's quite humorous. It's Feral Kid Racing now. It's been a lot of other different things, but quite funny indeed. Cartier up inside the top 5, a drive-through penalty for the 22 car. That will be from starting out of position. The 271 has looped it somewhere on the racetrack, and there is Keller backwards. What happened to Nicholas Keller? Let's see. Indeed, got sent around there.
Yeah, that was a tap from the car behind, spun the car, hit the wall, but managed to just hold on to the brakes that they stayed at the side, did avoid every other car behind. But you can see now Jaroslav Honzik fighting with I believe that's the number 38 Audi. They've just had a bit of a scrap here, it is, but they're having a bit of a fight as they come down the corner straight into the final corner and then onto the start-finish straight. And number 39, Jaroslav Honzik, in the Jardier Community Team Blue, puts himself up into 5th, and it looks like, Jesse, that might be one of the best first laps we've seen from Honzik there, gaining a position and really finding the speed here.
Jugnavicius very nearly came back on them through the chase, but just an excellent line and a nice defensive maneuver. Knowing where to put your car kept Jardier in top 5, and now they'll be able to do a little bit more damage on this lap. Garrett Fisher here fighting for what appears to be a top 3 spot. Hugo Merrill's back in P8. That car fighting in a huge wad of cars. Malinowski has had a fantastic lap. Number 1 has put 0.3 of a second on Hutchinson for the first spot in the race. But even so, Hutchinson has about a second and a half on P3, and it's no wonder P3 and 4 fighting one another. A couple of cars were off the back initially, and I didn't see a crash, and I almost wonder if that was on purpose. I believe it was the 28 and the 100 car. They were suspiciously far behind the pack, and I almost wonder if they did that on purpose, expecting there to be a huge melee, though there wasn't.
I don't know, I'd argue maybe 28, but looking at where they are on the mini-map compared to the main pack, I think it's a bit too far to be tactical. I'm wondering if they got held up coming up the mountain. Maybe someone went through a corner quite tightly and there was a little bit of a hold-up that wasn't a crash as such, but just a lot of cars slowing down. Either way, we're about to have a race replay here to find out what happened to Bozok as they're coming through. Is this the first corner? It is, and they just tapped the car ahead of them, accelerated a little bit earlier, the better exit, but there was... sorry, Salvalainen, though, must have had a big accident somewhere. Got a bit of a tap there from behind as they couldn't get out of the corner as fast as the other car. But, Jesse, like I was saying, people here, you got to get your shoulders out a little bit. I like the idea of maybe hanging back to avoid trouble. But at the end of the day, if you want to be placing high, if you want to be climbing places, you need to get your shoulders out early, because all they've done now is you can see the number 22 just lagging behind a little bit.
What's happened to Lindra Pier was in our chat earlier. Oh, and it's just got a little bit too much of the curb off the corner, trying to maximize the chase. Has looped it around. That should be minimal damage involved. And we do have an update. I was 100% right about the 100 to Savalainen. They must have started, we were being told they started in pit lane. And that's unlike Savalainen to do that accidentally. I think that was completely on purpose. And the 28 had a hardware change. That is Harry Conway, of course. They had a hardware change right before the start of the race, and that led them to starting near the back as well. So, sort of, I would argue both those are voluntary and no crash to speak of. But what has happened is Vardson trying to go in and a little bit of contact there, but gets away. That's why they call it Hell Corner, folks.
Edvardson, though, tapping the other car there is going to have a bad exit. And you could already see Mercedes behind was beginning to get a better exit and look for that overtake. So we'll see what happened in that situation. But here comes Samir Foch down the mountain just behind Cruiser, the number 7 Audi. And you can see that you've just got to be constantly hovering over that brake, Jesse. You've got to be really alert and watch what the car in front of you is doing, because if Cruiser suddenly stopped, if they suddenly put their foot on the brake to make a corner they thought they were going to miss, or because the car in front had an accident, both can go right into the back of them. So you have to be so alert at all times as you're going down that mountain section.
A little bit of sideways action here. Foch trying to stay where they are. They're going to gain a spot, in fact. P13 caught them napping down the Conrad straight and made it work through the chase.
And that's the thing as well that I was going to talk about, is overtaking opportunities. For those of you that used to watch the Thursday Champ, you'll know that this one is one thing I like to bring up a little bit in the middle of the race. And Jesse, looking at overtaking opportunities here, it's the age-old question of where can you overtake around Bathurst. So I can tell you that one place to overtake just after Forest Elbow onto that Conrod straight. And what you have to do is nail that downhill section, close the gap to the car ahead of you, so they're both coming out Forest Elbow with probably 2 tenths between you, and that
Brian Scheckerman!
Oh yeah, what's happened to Scheckerman here? There's been a huge accident, spun on the straight, it looks like. Maybe they've come out of the last corner and hit the curb. But either way, Scheckerman now not facing the right way on the straight and has recovered, but they are right at the back there. But going back to what I was saying, Jesse, you keep close down the mountain, and like Foch did there, come onto the Conrod straight, let the slipstream pull you through, and that is the overtake done and dusted.
It really is, and that's exactly what Foch was able to execute to get that done. I feel bad for Scheckerman there. Looked like some very significant damage to the right side of that Porsche 911, and that was not, as far as we could tell, due to that accident. That had happened prior to that. Just looped it there on the curb coming out of Murray's. Unfortunate 35th, like you said, that's very nearly near the back. We've got 40 or more cars on the racetrack at this stage. And now I think is an appropriate a time as any to talk about the pit stop strategy here. A very long pit window, almost the entirety of the race. The only thing the pit window in RCI in this series is used for is to keep you from pitting on the first lap or the last lap, doing something a bit cheeky. But what can you do in the pit lane? What is required? 25 seconds stationary in the box is what's required. What work you do is rather up to you, as Bozak has had a horrible job and drive coming down through Skyline.
That's enough to send them back to the pit lane, as you saw there. But Bozak there just sitting in the wall. We didn't quite catch the accident, but I imagine gone down the mountain a little too fast, as Leverline here getting a little bit swallowed up by the other cars. They're just falling back through the order, and that's not what you want to see, actually. I think that might have been the cock getting swallowed there, whereas Salvalainen was gaining. I got that the wrong way around. Salvalainen there was swallowing up 877. You can already see that Schroeder now in the BMW as well, putting pressure on them too. And that's the other thing I want to say, Jesse, is when you've got all the cars very close together like this, if you get taken by one person, you might get taken by a couple, because you just sort of all pull each other through. And is this Foch pitting already 10 minutes into the race?
I think it is, and I thought that it was a brilliant strategy call to come in incredibly early and maybe get out in clean air, but after Stewie provided us with that fly cam in pit lane, I'm not so sure that's what it was. I think maybe Samir's strategy has been forced here. Significant damage to the front of that Ferrari has led them into pit lane, and that might be additional repairs, so that might have not been strategically called. That might have been out of necessity, Tim.
It might have been, but like you said, if that was a strategic call, which it probably wasn't, It was a good strategic call at that. So Samir Foch, although they've now been forced to hit a lot earlier than they wanted to, they've now got a good opportunity here to recover from that accident and get something done. You can see they've come out the pit lane now. They've got a lot clean air ahead of them. And what is happening behind? There is a car doing spins.
Oh, the
and
car
donuts on the track.
completely off. What on earth happened here, Tim? Is that Tinko off then?
Is it? I know Veld went for a spin. You can see just doing donuts here, but they
What?
recover. So what happened? Who went off the track?
What on earth? A spin and go, which we've seen twice now in the past month of racing here on the channel. We saw it at Indianapolis. We've seen it here. And another spin and go, and that will do nothing for your tire longevity. But man, did that look like he did that with style.
I mean, it was just a perfect save. They spun and they caught it and they just kept going. And the best thing is usually when you spin like that, you lose all your momentum and you're basically back into gear 1. It looked like they could have still been in gear 3. They were still going, Jesse. They had a lot of speed behind them. So a brilliant save there from Van der Velde. And you can see now Lawrence getting ever so close to the rear of the number 77 Tardoli as they come up the mountain. But just ahead of Tardoli, you got Thomas. So there's a bit of a train forming here. And when you're Martin Lawrence in this situation, Jesse, what do you do?
Well, you don't do anything, Tim. You just have to sit here and be patient. If the opportunity is afforded to you, if Tardoli makes a mistake or maybe Thomas checks him up a little bit, yeah, you take a look. But over top of the mountain, when you're the third car in a line, you don't really want to do anything, especially considering Tadas Juknavicius is right behind all of them. You could end up finding yourself losing a spot trying to take one very easily. But if you get the draft here and you pull up to the 77 or again, if the 42 and the 77 start racing each other, you got to look for a spot. But main thing here, if you are Martin Lawrence, you got to be patient in this situation.
He's just made a brilliant point that you overtake him on the straight because that's what the Audi does best. And I actually saw a couple of Cat were talking about that earlier. It's no secret this Audi has a lot of good straight line speed. So Martin Lawrence, that is what you're looking to do here. Conway makes contact with the wall going down the mountain. You can just see 3 cars managing to just about squeeze past.
Oh, Harry Conway!
Oh, that was so close to a big accident there.
Harry Conway was up against the inside wall, and that's very strange because it's almost impossible to crash and end up there. That means that at some point they drove to a safer line, which is obviously very much appreciated, but huge damage there, and another one bites the dust, as they say.
The happy newbie in the chat saying completely intentional. They're going for the Crowd's Choice Award, of course, referring to the Van der Velde spin earlier. Jesse Lee, I want to bring this into a real thing. Everyone in chat who's listening right now, let's make a Crowd's Choice Award. You tell us at the end of this race who you think gets that award, because Van der Velde right now is definitely leading that sort of race.
You know what? I love it. I love it. Chat choice is officially a thing for today. Tell us who your favorite driver in today's race was, and not necessarily because they're doing well. Is it a spin and go that gets your goat? Is it a GTR? Don't know. It's up to you. I will say I was once told that the only way you can spin and make it look good is that if you've done that accidentally and crashed a few times. But I don't know if that was Tinko, if they've ever crashed in their life. So that it's just so nice of a spin. And Jardier, by the way, who's up to P4 now, the driver who always seems to drive better than they qualify. They're got a spot there and might have used the old chrome horn there a little bit. You know, Bathurst made a name for itself about people taking Holdens and Fords and moving each other out of the way.
Oh, see it here though. The other car tried to squeeze through. There was a bit of a tap between them, but I don't know. I'd say maybe a bit of a unsportsmanlike hit from the both of them, but either way, Honzik had that position to begin with, so let's defend. And if the other car didn't complete the move, that at the end of the day is on them as well. But like you were saying, Honzik, amazing drive already. Started in 6th place, up to 4th, and looking like they just want to keep climbing now, but they do have to close the gap to Fisher because that number 78 Mercedes, Jesse, is 6 seconds ahead right now.
Well, I gotta say, going back to the Jardier thing, I felt like Jardier was kind of didn't really have a choice. They were on the outside line. They gave as much space as possible. There's still contact. I feel like things went back to the status quo, and that's the best way that could have ended up. But maybe a little bit of frustration out of the 39 McLaren. I would be a little bit of extra damage that I did not sign up for there, but nevertheless, still P4 for them. They sorted themselves out. A couple of big crashes here, but no pileups in today's race. It's gone incredibly well, in my opinion. About a 3-second lead out front. Malinowski leads Hutchinson. No movement there as well as looks like that was Ripper and the 666 just going a little bit off there. They approach Skyline and then the S's, but no harm, no foul for the driver of the ASP Team 666 Mercedes.
What's happened to Bosch as we just saw them facing the wrong way, and now we're getting the race replay as they go straight into the wall and sitting outside the track here. You can't recover. You've got to wait for all the cars to come through before you can even start to move again. That's going to be a lot of damage, Jesse, that they've now got to navigate the downhill of the mountain for. So, unfortunate for Bosch there, but still in this race, and there's 43 minutes to go. Anything could happen. Van der Velde currently on your screens. They've had an interesting race, to say the least, so far. Had a bit of a spin earlier and will now be driving on what could be known as the worst tyres in history because they'd have been scrubbed flat, but they're not letting it slow them down. The 66 Ferrari, Jesse, closed back in, unfortunately, the 616, and they are now looking to make something happen, but Dimitrov behind, they're a little bit closer and they're looking for a way through Van der Velde.
Yeah, well, the thing about Tinko is, yeah, those tires are going to be completely scrubbed and shagged, but that doesn't mean that they can't defend. All they've got to do is hold on to their pit stop. Dimitrov getting a little bit frustrated, a little bit of a flash of lights, and that's Hugo Merrill's in the orange number 13 Ferrari in the background as well. All these drivers fighting over P6 right now. Tinko doesn't care. Tinko's like, okay, I got away with one coming down the Conrad straight, which is fine. The tires are a little not great. Oh, and a little bit of a touch on the wall by Dimitrov right there through Griffin's Mount, and that will do nothing for the stability of that Mercedes. Merrill's will have noticed that as well. That will get their attention to maybe Dimitrov overdriving the car a little bit, trying to get back to the bumper of Van der Velde.
And this is what I mean. You've got to be constantly judging through this race. How fast can you go before you push it to the limit? And Dimitrov there pushed it, I'd say, a little bit to the limit. Flirted with it there as they slightly tapped the wall, but has managed to retain the position onto the Conrad straight now is where we're going to see whether it will make a huge difference. But number 13 there is a bit far back to make something happen. Dimitrov will be safe for the next lap or so, and I've got to say, that in itself, to hit the wall and not be affected too badly, that is good news, number 4 Mercedes. But take us back to the beginning of this race, Jesse, where I was talking about what Malinowski had to do to retain the win. They've
look at the send! Oh, Duke Novicius with a huge send up the inside. It isn't going to work. The 171 of Lawrence goes through. And what about the 77 Tardelli? He's going to somehow cycle back through. Look at this again. Look at this huge lunging move through the chase here.
I'm waiting for it, and I know it's going to be good because I just caught it out the corner of my eye, and there they go now. A huge send down the inside, managing to keep out of trouble as well. Picks up a lot of grass on the inside, which means they're going to have to sacrifice that position. But, oh my God, Jesse Lee, imagine they didn't overshoot that corner. How good of a move would that have been?
It would have been fantastic. What we missed in all of that, we didn't miss it, we saw it, was that Martin Lawrence made the pass on Tardiali there, and at the same time, Duke Novicius said, I'll get two with one stone. Didn't get that. That didn't come off, but at least the move did work for Martin Lawrence, who's able to navigate the mobile chicane and get a position there that they had been very patient with I might add, for the past 4 or 5 laps, waiting for an opportunity. Didn't miss it. Juke Novicius very nearly, though, had the move of the race almost. And again, like you said, clean enough, though. A huge move and a lunge that will frustrate you if you're having to race against that driver. But as a broadcaster and a spectator, I thought that was brilliant to pull that off without contact.
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, that was probably one of the most exciting things we've seen. But either way, it's nice to have a Bathurst race without too much contact. And that being said, we're only 20 minutes into it. But I've got to say, Jesse, what could have been very chaotic has been very, very clean so far, as Dimitrov here looks for a move on Van der Velde. They've swung. Never mind, that is a back marker, Stu. I got way too excited. I was like, oh my god, Dimitrov, what a slipstream down the straight. But it will happen, Jesse. Someone is going to get that move done, and it is going to look good.
Tinko has sort of driven away a little bit from that fight, and that has led that to more than a second's gap. Look at this. Mellis trying to go the long way. Will they run out of room here? They almost do. And could this be more positions lost? I'm afraid it might be for Alessio Mellis, and it has. Just what I said earlier about 20 minutes ago. Sometimes you go for a pass that doesn't come off. You're the one that ends up losing a spot. That's what's happened here to the 15.
Now having a bit of a look at Honzik ahead. Are they going to be able to find a way through? Well, not for a little bit, most likely, Jesse, because they're about to go up the mountain. Takes me back to what I was saying about what do you do with this mountain section if you've got a car right ahead of you. Well, you're going to do what the 616 here is going to try and do, and that is stick to the rear of the car ahead of you. The Honda needs to keep this gap as tight as possible, so that by the time they leave the tight mountain section, they have a good enough run down the straight that they can make the move happen. But already you can see the McLaren just handling the uphill section of the mountain so well here, giving themselves a bit of breathing room. That is what Honzik needs to continue. Going into the downhill section, you've got to be so good on the brakes here, really just balancing them, finding the right spots so you can carry as much momentum as possible. And Honzik doing a brilliant job so far.
Oh, Michael Herman has had a huge crash here, and I believe that's coming out of Solman into McPhillamy, and that has caused that Ferrari to teleport to the pit lane. You know, I've been trying to get through some of these early penalty reports. There's not been a great deal of them, of course, but the action on the racetrack has been so crazy, just haven't had an opportunity, a good opportunity to get to them for you. Tim, you're under the instructions that if something happens, do interrupt me. Because
okay.
I'm going to go for one here. Lap 1, turn 1, involving car 18 and the 977 and the 183. A 5-second penalty for car 18 for causing avoidable contact. Lap 1, turn 1 between the 271, the 75, and the 877. 5-second penalty to the 271 for avoidable contact. Lap 1, turn 12 between the 271 and the 615. Drive-through for car 615 for taking out car 271. Position not returned. Lap 2, turn 1, cars 49 and 100. Racing incident. Lap 3, turns 1 and 2 between cars 180 and 197. Racing incident. Lap 3, 95 and 615. Racing incident. Lap 3, cars 7 and 88.
We've got a race replay here,
incident.
Jesse. Let's find out what's happened to Jordan Daly. Bit of contact has happened here, and it looks like they've just tapped to the rear of the car ahead. Nothing too exciting. Let's see if anything happens here as they come up. No, not quite. So Jordan Daly there making a slight bit of contact with the car ahead. Jesse Lee.
Lap 3, car 7 and 88. Racing incident. No further action.
Oh,
on lap 4
Jesse Lee! Advancing in the 180 has just made contact with the 97 of Sariso there, trying to overtake, going around the outside. Just before the uphill of the mountain, both cars make contact, and Edvardson...
Oh, it's a pile-up!
No,
it's a big crash! Cars piling into the cutting, and several cars involved, 3, 4, and 5, and they're still stuck there, trying to sort it out. It's a parking lot, the cutting, and more carnage as one car tries to back up. It's an unfortunate situation. Wave yellow flags in the cutting, and no good way to get turned around here, as more than 7 cars involved now.
Shanti a little bit ago said in the chat ACC needs a safety car, and after seeing that I might just have to agree to a certain extent. We're going to get a race replay and see exactly what happened in some parts. But you can see Lima, this is the part where they tapped them. I mean, look at them. One's facing the wrong way, the other's basically pinned between one car and the wall. Jesse, it is a huge pile up in one of the tightest parts of the track there, and it goes to show so many people can get involved if it happens in the wrong place. And my God, Jesse,
Well, it's
that
an
you see what
unfortunate
happened in Lima,
situation.
facing the wrong way.
Yeah, and
And
that's
that is not what you want to see on that corner. But either way, a lot of these cars now out of that situation will be coming back down and pitting. And I was saying, for those of them that want to pit in the middle of the race, a good time for maybe them to consider it, as they're going to have damage here. Is Sameet looking to benefit, making a move around the outside of number 58. That is Holland, I believe, that they have just managed to clear, battling out down the Conrod straight. 95 Porsche is number 58 Audi. Manages to stay ahead and will now start to pull away as they get onto that start-finish straight.
Well, that was just an incredibly unfortunate situation in the cutting. You get one car span around and it's a blind corner, and it doesn't matter if you're a car coming up through that section or if you're a car that's already span around. You trying to pick a spot to get the car righted, especially when you're, sort of diagonal across the racetrack. You can't really do a whole lot except go forward or backward. And of course, that has created a little bit more chaos in that situation. And Smeets making up a couple of spots and getting some of the traffic. It's all kicking off. Remember when I was reading penalty reports, and it's a real good time to do that? That is case in point. I got a few more though. Warning for car 183 for causing avoidable contact with car 65, that on lap 5. A racing incident on lap 4 between cars 49 and 22. A drive-through for car 615. I believe that's the second drive-through for car 615. This on lap 5 for causing contact with the 95. Racing incident between the 71
Oh,
and
a bit of
31.
contact there between Lawrence and Thomas. Thomas goes off track and actually just about catches it before they hit the wall, but we're going to have a race replay. See what happened here. Is there contact? No, Thomas just loses control of the car, swings to the left and does recover before they hit the wall, but either way, that is not what they wanted to do. They really wanted to be defending from Lawrence there, but you just saw the car slipped out from underneath them and completely taken off the track.
That is quite strange a little bit, but also it's also the part. Oh my goodness! What on earth happened right there?
I shouldn't laugh, but it's so unfortunate for Thomas, who comes back onto the track, just about recovers, and the car behind hits the inside curb, swings into the back of Thomas, and then both cars go into the wall, resulting in a pit. Luckily though, Jesse, happened just outside the pit lane. If you're gonna have a crash anywhere in Bathurst, you want it to be.
What a strange series of events. I was just going to explain. Coming into the chase, that's the point in the racetrack where your car is sort of in a compromised position, because you come down a hill and you start back up one to take the chase, and it's in a precarious aero position. And if you have too much wheel into it, or if you are at a weird angle or hit a curb or something, sometimes you just jerk the steering wheel a little bit. You can lose it there completely by yourself, especially if you're in the aero wash of another car. And I wonder if maybe that caused that. But that second bit after the chase, I can only imagine that the one of them spun their wheels and just happened to be another car there. That looked horrible, but I don't know if there was any malice in that. That was a very strange indeed. Pit stops are commencing for the majority of the field now, near the halfway point. Your leader, Malinowski, the fastest driver on the track. That should surprise absolutely no one with the lead that they have. They have decided now is the right time to come in and complete their pit stop. I don't believe Hutchinson has done so. 4 seconds back, they've come through to take the lead of the race. 7:26, Garrett Fisher pits out of third and comes to pit lane. So does Jardier out of fourth as well. The leader coming in has triggered a lot of the top 5 to come in.
I mean, that's probably the strategy for most of them there, is come in to the pits when the leader comes in, because realistically, once you've gone through that first bit, Jesse, where do you pit? It's Bathurst. There's no room anywhere anyway. Malinowski now is going to come into traffic somewhere along the line. I doubt they're going to be able to find a completely clean space. We're going to have a replay here from the 616, find out what happened to them.
So Voitna disappeared. Okay, this is Max Voitna. Oh, and that's what's happened. They've had a huge crash coming through Skyline of the S's. And just like so many other competitors today, their race ends in the S's. Huge crash for a driver inside our top 10.
That's so unfortunate because they were having a really good race as well up until that point. But it just goes to show that it can be any part of the sort of race here at Bathurst, and you're still not completely out of the woods. You've got to be having full attention the entire time to not make a mistake like that because it could end your race. Like we saw Malinowski out of the pit lane, I believe, managed to slot themselves into 13th place here. So everyone ahead will not have pitted yet. But like I was saying, Jesse, Malinowski, there's nowhere you can pit strategically to come out without a huge load of traffic ahead of you. You've just got to do it. And then for everyone behind Malinowski, you don't want to be undercar overcar here, right? You want to be on the same ground tyres wise. By the time you get to the end of the race, you want to have the same tyres as them because otherwise you can end up miles behind and try to close that gap, which you can't do if there's other cars between you. Basically, you've got to do what Fisher has done here and pit at the same time and hope that no one gets put between you. Of course, in this case, Schroeder is, but realistically, once Fisher's cleared Schroeder, they can just start the chase up again, try and close that gap to Malinowski.
Well, Hutchinson only goes one additional lap, and they brought that car down into the pit lane, pitting out of the provisional lead. That should give the lead back to Malinowski, who has beat everybody else out of the pit lane thus far. And unless Hutchinson does something that saves them 4 seconds, which I don't think they can do, I think they will retain the lead. A couple of cars still yet to pit. Hugo Merrells is in. Marco Ripper is in. Session is in, and Cruiser also in. Wouter Billen, who we're just looking ahead at, is also in the pit lane. Is Hutchinson starting their service? Jade is done with their service, and there goes the leader of the race, or what will eventually be leader of the race. Comes out in P7. Goes just about where they were. That was a quicker stop. It was 4 seconds the gap before the stop. It's only 2.7 now, Tim.
That's a good play from Hutchinson there. It was a slower stop, apparently, but it's been enough to just that gap close enough. I'd say there's still a big fight for it. You've got 30 minutes left in the race, thereabouts. There's a lot of time left for things to happen, Jesse. And that's what we were sort of talking about, is what's the pit strategy here? Basically, just try and copy the leader, maybe go a little bit off pit lap, but it's going to come down to the strategy to a certain percent as well. And that's why some people fare better than others, because one, some people will have planned their strategy a lot in advance. They know what they're going to do, but also they're quite good at doing strategy on the go. But also, you've got to remember, there are some people here that have teams with them, or maybe just a couple of friends that will be planning the strategy with them as well and helping them out as when do you pit. And that's something that I quite like about these races too, is that let's say you're watching a friend do it, you're in a Discord call or a TeamSpeak call with each other, you can always be their pit engineer for them, and it really does help them out.
Sure is the case. Just reading chat, of course, we do keep up with the chat here, and Tadas, who had this to say earlier, what a race. Went from P8 to a DNF, and that's just how quickly it can change, especially for one of the better drivers, Vanko Dimitrov, in the pit lane. They will hand over the lead. Dyer in as well. Martin Lawrence will take the of the race for the time being. A handful of cars still yet to pit. Sim Smeets in the 95 has to pit as well, and a couple of others will need to stop. Katrina mentioned earlier, with lots of cars on track, Bathurst is unforgiving. I'll be honest, Katrina, most people struggle with Bathurst all by themselves. There are 40-odd cars in there. It gets absolutely insane. I think we've all seen it today. Tim, try it again. Penalty, okay?
Just before you do, Jesse,
yeah.
I just want to mention Honzik, who was originally in 4th place before pit stops, is now behind Van der Velde, which means at some point Van der Velde managed to overtake Honzik either on track or in the pits. There's team strategy coming into play here as two cars. I see. So to go back to what I was saying about Honzik had to repair some damage, and that is why they are behind Van der Velde. But either way, that puts that Ferrari back up into, I believe, a provisional position, which is a good recovery from the Ferrari that at one point had found themselves down into 6th from 4th.
Very nice reporting there, Tim. And, well, just to try and finish this off as quickly as possible, racing incident between the 7 and the 31, racing incident between the 71 and the 28. No further action for an incident involving the 28. A warning for car 616 for sending a bit too deep. Returned on lap 6. Racing incident between the 197 and the 100. Racing incident between the 97 and the 180. Racing incident between the 197 and the 115. And a warning for car 180 for causing avoidable contact. That on lap 12. And ladies and gentlemen, we're all caught up on the penalty report. Shout out to the stewards.
Well, I don't know why I found that so funny, but that's just a nice little way to wrap up the penalty report there. But of course, a shout out to the stewards who are doing this live right now. They are making sure that all the reports are read and then judged accordingly. They've done a good job to keep up with this race. But I've got to say, Jesse, a lot has happened since you started reading those reports. You've had a lot of times where you've had to stop, even for long periods.
It took me 15 minutes, Tim, to read those reports.
Minutes. Wow, that is a long time, but for the most part now, it feels like, and I don't want to jinx it, commentator's curse is a thing here, Jesse. Had an almost quiet period for a bit, but I feel like that might change soon because we're watching Jordan Daly and Samir Foch brewing something behind them just 4 tenths off, and it's happening up and down the field. Honzik here sitting behind Dimitrov. They are 6 tenths behind, which means Dimitrov has overtaken them as well. And that damage repair on Honzik has really affected their position in the race. They started 6th, they got up into 4th, and now they'll find themselves back down in 8th. So they've got a bit more climbing to do if they want to get back up into that.
Well, they're back up to 6 now because Savalainen and Martin Lawrence have completed their pit stops, and that does complete the cycle of green flag pit stops, or required pit stops, I should say, in this race. Everybody inside the top 25, at least, completed their stops, so their positions are where they are. But like you said, Jardier did lose a couple of spots having to fix that damage, and I theorized earlier that they wouldn't want to compromise their race by not fixing it after the contact that they didn't want to have, and they have done that. But if there's one good thing, got Jardier in the car, and if you've got those positions once, surely you can do it again. Now look at this. This is a move right here. You don't normally see people trying to make moves into Reed Park, but that's almost what you saw there. Savalainen feeling the desperation sink in just a little bit and nearly went by the 65. The 65, to their credit, gave them a little bit of a room, but Savalainen thought better of it and probably for the best.
Good respect from both drivers there. Gave each other the room. Savalainen really pushing to find the overtake. And again looking for a move around the number 65, but not able to find it as Babchenko holds strong here, coming out of Forest Elbow onto the straight. Can they hold it together? Well, they're in a BMW, so they are going to have a good old advantage down the straight, but the Mercedes is no slouch either, Jesse. And you can see that Savalainen has the slipstream here. Is it enough, though, to close the gap before the chicane?
It is a lot of respect, and a lot of respect to Harabchenko, who has not put a foot wrong.
Oh, they're
here,
going for it!
Also, look at this very big move here. Wants to get as close as possible. The 65 does, but it's not going to be. It's going to be okay. That was a noise from my co-commentator there, but Savalainen finally gets it done. A couple of ill-fated attempts, but on the third time asking, third time lucky, gets the spot. And now Cresson in the 977 will be the next to try and make that pass. Look what happened here. Samir Foch trying to come back through some of the positions. Oh, gets loose there, makes contact with what looks to be a Race Ventura car. That is Jordan Daly, I'm pretty sure.
That looked like both of them lost grip, actually. I'm not 100% sure Daly was stable on the track either there. It looked like they'd come off the curb a little bit too harshly and were swinging back across the track. So I wonder how that one will turn out. But either way, Foch and Daly making contact, not going to be good for either of them because, well, as we were saying about Jardier, if you've got that little bit of damage, it does start to compromise your race a bit. And even the couple of seconds on some tracks, Jesse, you can get a couple of seconds of damage and you don't notice it that much. Here, if you get a couple of seconds damage, you do start to notice it as you come down the mountain because it really throws off the grip of your car. So basically, you want to keep as little damage as possible, which is easier said than done here. I mean, this is the one track where you're going to pick up damage no matter what. So it's sort of a, I don't even know the word for it, but it's a bit of a stab in the back from the track itself here in that you don't want to get the damage, but you're probably going to.
it's one of those tracks where don't come in and say, right, I'm going to make this a perfect race because it's almost impossible to have a perfect race, and especially with so many cars. It's just incredibly unlikely. You come here a lot of times, it's right, how do I survive and minimize incidents? What do I need to make that possible? Malinowski is back down the pit lane. The leader of the race, the fastest driver and your pole sitter in the 992 Honda, has brought his car back down pit lane. The random pasta bowl car is sitting in pit lane. This is a unrequired, unscheduled stop. What manner of things has happened to Mason Malinowski's car?
I mean, that's just changed everything. Hutchinson is now in the lead of this race, and Fisher, 2.5 seconds behind, will be putting their foot down now to close that gap. They're going to want to end up on the front as well, but Malinowski's still in the pit lane. Is this damage, Jesse? Did they get into an accident and have to come into the pits?
The car did not look damaged to me at all. I wonder if maybe they've had some sort of behind the scenes issue, because they would have been down and away by now if it was a normal stop. Something has gone wrong in Malinowski's world, and he is tumbling down the order. Also, Savalainen has a drive-through penalty. Do have that report for you. Drive-through penalty for car 100 for taking out car 18. Position not returned. That back on lap 12, turn 4. Racing incident between the 97, the 18, the 180, and the 114. 15-second penalty for car 18 for reversing and causing an accident. That was in the cutting, the big accident we saw earlier. Warning for car 22 for minor contact. Racing incident between the 22 and 9. A warning for car 42 for a dangerous rejoin. That brings you back up to date. But the big storyline here is the pole sitter and race leader seemingly out of this race.
And I can actually some insight into what has happened here. I believe jury will be looking to get a replay as we speak, but what had happened there, Jesse, is apparently according to race control, they had a massive crash over the hill. It happened in Skyline, and they've sent a photo of it into the little chat we have here, and that car is in the air, so it looks like something bad happened, and it was in fact a crash from the original race leader.
Yeah, that has happened, despite the fact that car not looking damaged. Look at this. Pierre Alexander getting all sorts of over the curve. Very easy to lose it there. Doesn't. All over the back of the 90, or excuse me, the 65. And look at this. These two BMWs fighting each other tooth and nail. They've been like this for the past lap or so. But, yeah, huge damage and just a race-altering crash there for Malinowski. Has completely blown apart their day. Right after I finished my speech of nobody escapes here completely unscathed, not even if you're the leader.
And that's so unfortunate for Malinowski, because they have just performed so well from qualifying all the way into the race. It looked like they had it down. It looked like they found, Jesse, that right balance that I was talking about between how hard you can push in the race and just playing it safe enough that you're not having the car behind you putting pressure on you. And it looked like Malinowski had that down. They had a huge gap. It was about 9 seconds before the crash, and it just seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. Now, I believe we're about to have a race replay of what happened from Malinowski's perspective here. Coming down the hill, we're going to see exactly what happened, and coming through the corner here, looks like they're just carrying a lot of speed and straight into the wall, into the other wall, and to see that the damage is here in this part of the stream, but we didn't see it before. But either way, Jesse just taking that downhill section very fast, didn't manage to find the right balance, and you can see from the steering wheel that the car has become undrivable, and because going down the straight, that steering wheel was at least 90 degrees, if not more.
Well, that explains why they were in the pit lane for a very long time. The no damage showing up on the model of the car threw us a curveball there a little bit, but there very much was damage, huge damage, and a big crash. Hugo Merrill's continuing to work up through the top 10 cars, and going to get one of those spots there. Hugo, nicely done. Felt like the Mercedes orchestrated that a little bit. A little camaraderie, a little give and take here, as Dimitrov didn't fight that as hard as they possibly could have done. P5 for Hugo now. Speaking of fighting as hard as you can.
No, you go, Jesse, you go.
No, I'm just saying, these two have been going at it for the better part of the last 3 laps, and it's not been too pretty between them, as it's Hartmanenko does not want to let this spot go, and Session does not want to give up any opportunity to make this pass a reality. And it's hard fighting between the two of them, and it hasn't quite come to blows yet, but I have a feeling it's not going to end pretty.
Been good hard fighting between, like you said, and it's brought them up though into 11th and 12th place they're fighting for, so not a bad position either. It's not like they're down at the bottom of the field just scrapping out between themselves and slowing each other down, as it looks like they go for another move again. Both BMWs into the corner that starts uphill make contact, and it's either the one of them has actually slowed down quite a lot. They made contact with the wall there, and that's going to really affect the next section. Already under pressure from the Honda behind as well, and it looks like they've not got a lot of speed at all. Are they really damaged, Jesse, to the point where they can't accelerate up the hill quick enough? And you can see Villain just trying to keep it as close as possible, although it looks like now Hovchenko's back up to speed. But either way, 97765 making contact in that corner. Going to spell an end to that brilliant fight we were just talking about, because I'm not sure the 65 now is going to have enough to close that gap again.
Feel very clairvoyant today. Every single thing I said was going to happen has happened at some point in the race. I might buy a lottery ticket later or something. I don't know. Luther Villain, though, trying to capitalize here and get one more spot. Is quite confused why a car that was battling inside the top 10 is now back here at the moment, but Luther won't care nearly as much as Rabchenko will. Leisha at 183. Honda doing very well here thus far inside the top 15. I've lost track of the amount of championship Dylan has entered here at RCI. But the majority of them, it's a rarer occasion that he's not on the grid somewhere.
Just want to take you back a couple of minutes, Jesse, to when you were talking about the Ferrari number 13 of Morels and what they were doing. A good race from them. We were talking about Jardier had a good race so far, how Wodgner as well was climbing to begin with, but they've managed to take that Ferrari up into 5th place, and they've just been slowly climbing. It seems to have happened off camera. They've been doing quite subtly, but with everyone else's misfortune and them doing some good racing, it's been enough to put them up into 5th, which brings me on to what I want to say next about what some of these cars have been doing. And a good strategy here for Bathurst is something you do, just sit in the shadows a little bit, make sure you're staying on the track. Billen going for a move here though on the number 65. They were lining it up the last time we were coming around this corner. It looks like they're maybe going for it now. Looks for the outside, not going to happen. The 65 pushes them back behind. A good defense there from Habchenko. But going back to what I was saying, Jesse, a good strategy for Bathurst here. Stay out of trouble. Stay out of trouble, and you'll just get places naturally. You don't have to be aggressive in battle here. The places will come to you if you just keep yourself out of the danger.
No, it's absolutely sound advice. I think you're absolutely both correct in that. Is if you have decent speed, don't pressure yourself to perform too much. Like, make passes when you can. Don't force anything, and the race will come to you. Especially if it's a longer race. An hour race, you maybe, oh boy, that was close. Push a little bit, but in an endurance race, really don't push it all here very much. You want to hit your lap time, hit your goal, but beyond that, don't go over the limit. Don't put your car in bad positions, and good things will happen. And rather unfortunately, though, sometimes danger can still find you. Additional penalties coming through. Lap 13, a 15-second penalty for car 77, going onto the grass, spinning and taking out the 42. Position was returned, but might we see a pass here, Tim?
Well, yes, we have, because Billen has already cleared it. I'm not sure the BMW 65 was going to put up too much of a fight there. Honestly, it looked like they almost let the Honda through, and Billen now gone through the final set of corners onto the start, finish straight. And yeah, I mean, that's what they were looking for. They've been sitting behind those BMWs for a while and now managing to clear, and that is going to help the Honda start to climb. And not enough, Jesse, something I wanted to say was when we came out qualifying, there are a lot of Hondas. 10, I'd say there are about 4 of them. Look now, there ain't a lot of Hondas in that top 10 anymore.
Funny you should mention that. I remember about a year and a half ago, we did a endurance race here, and 4 out of the top 5 qualifying cars were Mercedes-AMG. And when that race finished, we didn't have one in the top 5. And it sort of happened today where we were packed with Hondas, and now really most of them have had their troubles today, haven't they? It's interesting what the crucible of motorsport can do.
It really is. We've got a race replay here of Savalainen again to see what has happened between them and another car, and it looks like They've managed to clear it. Are they going to have a little incident? No. So it looks like Salvaline there gained a position, maybe, or just get the back marker. No, I believe they gained a position on the number 65 there. That's put them up 12th place. Now they can have a choice at going for the Honda ahead of Billon. But I'll say, Jesse, we've seen a lot of Salvaline today, and I can't say it's all been good, but some of it has been. But either way, Salvaline had a lot of action today, up and down the field, but still in it and in 12th place as well.
Yeah, do keep in mind, he put himself at the back of the field, and it wasn't that he started 39th. He didn't qualify there. He started in the pit lane, we believe, out of self-preservation, and he's had to drive through this entire field. He's done the majority of that already, and of course, he also, I believe, he had a drive-through penalty. You factor that in, that set him back as well. For him to be as high up as he is,
they had damage
absolutely incredible. You're right, they had damage. It's just been incredible.
Bit of a fight here going on between
it's gonna be a spin!
and Beausoleil, but it looks like Beausoleil's going to enter the wall as Foshin and make contact on the straight. A weird place to make contact, but there is that slight kink in the straight there. Both cars seem, well, it seemed like Foch there lost a bit of grip, hit Beausoleil, and now Beausoleil just going to try and recover from that.
Well, I mentioned it earlier, it's an awkward part of the racetrack where you're in a weird valley, and any sort of contact or change in the direction of the car usually ends up in a spin. Your car is unloaded at particular stage, and that's exactly what happened there to Nicholas Beausoleil. The car was unloaded, there was a little bit of contact, absolutely no way to save that car.
Salvaline on our screen once again, this time not because there is an accident happening, just because they are managing to defend from Billon behind, who they would have taken recently, putting themselves ahead of the Honda. Now, I was talking about the Hondas, Jesse, that were in the top 10. There was 4 of them originally. There's now just 1, but that 1 is in first place. It is Hutchinson, and they have kept a nice steady second gap to Fisher behind. That's 726, the next in line to do something here in this race. But for now, Hutchinson doing a very good job at keeping that lead. And it looks like they might be having a good finish here today, which I think everyone was expecting from a Honda, notoriously known for doing well around Bathurst.
It is true, but give credit to the Canadian driver Hutchinson here. This is their MO. They come in every single race, and they're on the front couple of rows, and they may not always win, but they put themselves in a position to gain advantage in other people's incidents and misfortune. And even when they are the #1 car, they drive so well and so, I would say, methodically, that it's not surprising at all whenever they do well. And I know a lot of people will be happy and surprised about Jade's performance today. Not me. I'm used to it by now. This is, since day one, Hutchinson's come into this league, exactly what they are known for. And that, well, they're doing it here today. And one man to beat Malinowski, and, well, unfortunately, Malinowski themselves.
We just appreciate for a second Jordan Daly versus Beausoleil there, very close to each other coming down the straight, almost touching, didn't manage to have contact, which is a good thing. But if you looked at the time difference just now in the last sector, Jesse, it was 0.02 of a second between them, and that's because they were neck and neck for most of that straight, and they were almost touching as well. But some brilliant fighting from Daly and Beausoleil there.
Yeah, I heard our broadcaster react to something. I wasn't quite quick enough to catch what he was on about, but yeah, very close fight between the two of them. You see that in the mid-pack most of the time. I'm going to try this one more time, folks. I am going to try, as we have entered the final few minutes of the race. I'm going to get through the rest of the penalty reports, okay, as they continue to be added by Grim Lilith here. Racing incident between the 9 and the 58. A warning for car 88 for causing avoidable contact. A racing incident between the 42 and the 7. A racing incident involving the 65. Drive-through for car 977 for taking out the 65. Racing incident before the 65 and the 183. And a drive-through for car 83 for sweeping the 137, causing a takeout. That on lap 24. Up to date as of 8.
Sorry, I made a bit of a noise then. It wasn't anything too exciting. It was just a blue flag getting out of the way in the end. But someone was off the track going down the downhill section. But it was just a blue flag trying to let some cars through. And that brings up another question for you, Jesse, is If you're a blue flag here, I mean, it's a lot of pressure, isn't it? Hang on a second. We've got a little bit of a fight going on as Foch goes round the outside of the number 65. Not going to put up any fighting there as number 65. And why is that? Because Foch has a drive-through penalty to serve. But go back to what I was saying there, Jesse. If you're a blue flag here, you've got a lot of stress on you because where do you let people overtake? There's not a lot of options. If someone comes up to you right behind on the mountain section, especially that downhill bit, what do you do to let someone overtake?
Well, it goes back to patience, Tim. It really is a game of patience. A lot of times you don't really consider that when you think motorsport, but a lot of motorsport is concentration, precision, and patience. And around the top part of the mountain, a lot of skills I don't have, admittedly, but around the top of the mountain, you gotta if you are a blue flagged car, you're not racing anybody, you've got to make a decision. Where is it safe to let this driver who's on a different lap than me go? And if you are in a battle, the driver behind you has to be aware of that. There's a lot of moving parts. Speaking of moving parts here, Bosselet, and that's a replay of that previous
That's the
crash.
Bosselet, isn't it?
That is what the drive-through for Bosselet, or excuse me, the drive-through for Samir Foch came from, contact with Bosselet. Interesting, that one. I don't know exactly what happened there with that particular angle, but nevertheless, Bosch with the penalty. Christian Bach for the first time today that we've really mentioned them, the 114. Keep in mind, this car started deep in the field. This car was 34th on the grid or something like that. They're up inside the top 20. That is Bosselet in 16th, right in front of them. All the GTR fans, look at this.
Gosh, Jesse, you absolutely love this
I
car.
don't know what you're talking about. This man is crazy.
Hearsay. But Bok doing a great job closing the gap on Bosselet here, looking to make something happen in Nissan right now. But you can see that not close enough on this straight. Maybe the next time around though, and it brings back to what I was saying earlier, Jesse, that get close coming down the downhill section, it's risky and it makes you very nervous if you're near someone going on that downhill section. Still close when you come out for a elbow. Basically got a free position because there are not a lot of cars that can hold a slipstream pull like that down the Conrod straight. But either way, Bok here, they've closed up this gap to the car ahead. They're onto the start-finish straight. Bosselet is that car you see right in front of them. What can Bok do?
Shanti asking, how's the top speed of the GTR? I'm going to assume more than a Porsche.
I mean, there's one way to put it.
Judges down, or should I say up the mountain straight. Bosselet absolutely left for dead. The GTR, it's no contest as Bach converts that without a fight. Nothing Nicholas could do there. That is manufactured base power at its best. Now, Bosselet will have to take their mind to the 95 behind them. It is a fair fight. Two Porsches, Sim Smeets catching up to this group as Bach does go through in the 16th. 2.4 seconds to Daly. I don't know. Highly doubt they'll get there to take 15th from Daly. Talk about Daly. He's been in a couple of fights. He's been banged around a little bit. Still in for a top 15 here.
I don't think you should mention that on stream, Jesse, but yeah, Daly has been banged around a bit. But Daly, like you said, has had an absolutely amazing race so far. Amazing? I don't know how to put it. They've just had an action-filled race, let's say. Daly been in a lot of action, had to get their shoulders out a couple of times, but hey, that's Daly could be known for it. Definitely a notorious driver in RCI, well known in the W2. I used to have them racing the first day champ as well, and definitely someone who you mention in a lot of races. Daily, though, having an action.
This is dangerous. Sim Smeets trying to go around the outside. This could be very dangerous if he doesn't get clear, but he does get clear. Sim Smeets, it shows you just how much damage Bosselet's car has. Sim Smeets just driving around him, coming out a Forest elbow. It was no contest, and I have to believe that is all to do with Nicholas Bosselet's damage. Smeets, and look at this, Samir Foch coming in right near the end of the race, has to take that drive-through penalty, will run out of laps. You can take a drive-through as a time penalty if there are less than 3 laps to go. That unfortunately is not the case for Foch, as they will have to take it now just 1 lap shy of the finish. Hugo Merrill's we talked about them. Didn't quite have the qualifying that we've expected out of Hugo, but it hasn't mattered. They're still going to park it inside the top five here today and give themselves a more than good chance at contesting this championship.
Maybe asking yourself, why does Tim keep making weird noises every time something happens on the Conrod Stray? It's because I absolutely love that move that the cars keep pulling. When you just slingshot yourself around that slight kink in the track, go right around the edge, you're basically on the limit. You saw there as well with Smeets, all of the runoff that they could. It's such a satisfying move to watch, Jesse, and especially if you get it so close to the chicane that you almost have to tend the car down the inside as well. Oh, it's a brilliant bit of track, and I love it, and I love watching the cars just throw themselves around the corners there.
It is nice to have all of the talent that we have here in the pro class here on the Friday GT Sprint Championship. That means you get to see so many different drivers and different cars making incredible moves. And for the most part, it is a very clean and orchestrated affair. I think we can all agree, other than the one actual big incident in the cutting, it has been a pretty darn good day. Some fender banging surely, but you're going to get that pretty much anywhere. Savalainen just got muscled there a little bit, and they will not be happy about that. Salvo set this up, and I think he was thinking, I'll just pin them to the inside. But no, it hasn't worked at all. The BMW gets the better of him through the final turn.
I mean, that is the definition of getting your shoulders out. BMW is sticking to their guns here, not letting Salvalainen push them around.
Oh, contact there! He's going to send Savalainen into the wall. Thomas is going to drive away. Savalainen tried it. He tried it on Murray's. He got away with it. He tried it into turn 3, and it hasn't worked nearly as well. Contact into the wall. That might be all she wrote. What can you say about Jade Hutchinson? The driver who qualified P2 was patient all day and is going to get rewarded with a win. Meanwhile, fight still going on the last lap, up and down the grid, but it's going to be the Canadian who wins down under. Hutchinson wins round 1 of Season 7 Sprint Challenge.
Fisher as well coming across the line in second there, and I believe Van der Verde will be on that final podium position as well, but they are Van der Velde finishing in that final podium position. They have had one race. Now, I mean, they've just had a hell of a race, haven't they, Jesse? They've been up and down and around in the positions, but managing to put it on that podium, that is a good finish that they will be satisfied with. Hodzik puts himself back into 4th and Morel's in 5th. But I've got to say, Jesse, that's a sweet finish for some of those drivers, because those 5 that are up there in that top 5, they have fought those positions.
Oh, you're not going to get a disagreement from me, partner. It has been a fight for an entire hour. You're going to be a little bit tired. Normally, you don't get tired after running an hour's race. Maybe you load up and run another. Look at this team flying finish across the line. What an excellent photo op that is for those two. I think that was Ripper and Dyer, wasn't it? No, that wasn't Ripper and Dyer, but it was Dyer and their teammates. A couple of battles still commencing here. Sim Smeets trying to hold on. And, well, actually, no, has got that spot from the 65. That was not the car I thought it was. Sim Smeets flying here on the last lap. So is Pierre Alexander trying to get one more spot from Bosselet. Can you get it done into Murray's? Maybe chop off the corner? No. Bosselet will hang on for P17. And as we were saying, Tim, it has been an entire hour of fighting for everybody, especially in the top half of the field. Wow, what a race we've had here today.
Shanti in chat said, man of the race was Veld. I've got to say, they have had a really, really good race. And I would argue that, yes, maybe they were driver of the day. But for those of you that have been in chat for a while, you now get to pick your Chat's Choice Award. Do let us know who you think should get that. Because as we were saying earlier, Van der Velde, for those of you that remember, went for a bit of a spin, but managed to catch it as well. And Jesse, that's one of the beautiful things about Bathurst is you have a lot of chaos just in the drivers themselves. But I've got to say, they have shown today why they are the best of the best, why they are there in Split 1 in the Friday Championship. These drivers have done some phenomenal driving and shown exactly why they should be here and why they should be up in that top
I'll tell you something else. This championship's absolutely going to go down to it because you have a lot of competitors up at the front. Will Malinowski now has to climb up the entire mountain again from the back. Will get no points for today's race, I don't think. So it's going to be a huge mountain for them to climb. But if anybody can do it, it will be Malinowski. We've seen him do it before. And we've seen George Boothby, who is currently one of his teammates, do that as well in a Friday championship. It's not over, but today belongs to Hutchinson, a deserved win and so smooth today. Didn't put a foot wrong, was willing to accept second, didn't have to, winning the race. Here are the standings confirmed, pending post race penalties if there were to be any. Fisher takes the second step of the podium. Tinko Vandervelde in P3. That 66 Ferrari, incredible run today for Williams Esports. Gardier P4, a nice run as well. Always a man guaranteed to gain position. Go Merrill's rounds out your top five. Didn't qualify as good as they would have liked, but got the finish regardless. Marco Dimitrov in P6, Martin Lawrence, the Ripper, Dyer P9, and Savalainen after everything that 100 went through today. Drive throughs, crash, starting from the pit lane, still got that 100 into the top 10. Thomas Billin, Daily Box Meets, Robchenko, Basilit, Cresson, Edvardsen, and Foch are 20. Well, what a race it was. Folks, before you leave this evening, we invite you to hit like and subscribe for more GT racing action. As you might expect, we'll be back with you next Friday evening for round two of the championship. And we wouldn't want you to miss out. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, notified when we go live. And of course, in a couple of weeks, the Monday Deutschland Championship or Deutschland Masters Championship starts on the 29th of this month. There's still time to do your qualifying. You can join this series already in progress if you don't want to miss out on the fun. Do your pre qualifying sometime during the week, and we'll see you in the race for round number two. Go to racerci.com, RACERCI.com, sign up, get your pre quali done, and we'll see you. Of course, a big thank you to our partners that make this race and every race possible. And of course, AK Informatica, who provide our server solutions, Driver 61. Get 25% off your driver coaching by going to driver61.com and using our discount code in the description. Several of our admins here at RCI have used Driver 61's driver coaching, and it has definitely made them a faster and better sim racing driver. And of course, Fanatec and fanatec.com. Use our affiliate link when making purchases of quality sim racing hardware, direct drive equipment at fanatec.com. Doesn't cost you a thing, and it tells them that we sent you. It helps us with things like server cost when you use and make a purchase. Thank you all very much. All of your continued support. Tim Peck, final thoughts on today's.
I mean, it's the old saying, slow and steady wins the race, and not necessarily slow, but Hutchinson was very steady. Managed to get into that first place position after Malinowski had an unfortunate end to their race early on. I've got to say, there are some drivers that have done phenomenally today, both by getting their shoulders out and doing a bit of fighting on the track, or maybe just staying safe and being consistent. But either way, we've had some brilliant drivers, and I'm happy to announce that the Chat's Choice Award goes to Bok, who was driving Nissan. And Jesse, I'm sure you'll be happy to hear that too.
I am happy to hear that. I am quite surprised that they didn't give it to Savalainen. If I had to give my driver of the day, it probably would be Salvo. Just an incredible drive on a hard racetrack to get it done. Bach, though, in that GTR, I didn't give them half a chance after qualifying 34th. They got up there in amongst them at the end. I'm quite curious, who was your driver that you would have picked today?
Oh, I don't know. I have to agree with Ted Edwards in the chat. John Daly went from 30th to 13th, but there are a couple that did that as well. Like you're saying, Salva also up there as probably one of my votes for Drive of the Day too, just from going from the back up to where did they finish? I can't quite remember, but either way, like a great race from a lot of drivers. And I don't know, as for a Drive of the Day, I had to sell on one person. I think I'm going back to Van der Velde, honestly. Not just because they had that beautiful spin, which they managed to recover from so well, but simply because they fell down the field. They had problems with tires that would have been absolutely scraped to the core, but they just kept going, and it all paid off because they finished in that third podium position. I mean, just a brilliant all-round drive from them overall. No matter what happened with damage or problems with tires, they stuck with it, and it paid off.
Well, there you have it. The chat choice is Bach. We've had our choices as well in the booth. I think we might keep that going next. In fact, I love Cat would pick. Maybe work that out in the future. Well, that's going to be just about it from us here at RCI TV today. We'll see you in 1 week's time from the land of the rising sun, Japan, for 1 hour of Suzuka. And until next time, thank you all for joining us. I've been Jesse Lee, joined by Tim Peck and Stewie behind the cameras on behalf of our entire broadcast team, the admins, and of course, the lovely stewards who put in all of the work. We thank you for watching. Have a good night. We'll see you next time.